Hello. Um, Hi, everybody, and welcome to the launch of the Airways, coming to you live from my kitchen table here in Torino. Welcome to my void. I hope you're all doing okay out there. Um, so I was hoping to be home on Garniata Adelaide by now, but that was not to be. I still want to start though by taking a moment to acknowledge the country I'm on here, on the banks of the Po River, at the feet of some very powerful mountains. It feels really important to acknowledge the earth right now with everything in the news. So yeah, I also want to acknowledge the sovereign people of the lands that I've worked on. Ngurri and Ghana land, Bangala, Wirangu and Wadi Wadi country, and Lenawana Alona, the people of the Eora Nation, the Mohawk Nation, and all those who've taken care of the land and its stories before us, whose work makes our work possible. Thank you. And to the city of Beijing and the many diverse people that give that place its life and energy. So thanks, places. Now to the people. Nobody finishes a book by themselves, so I have a list of people and organisations that I've got to thank. And then I'm going to read from the Airways for a few minutes at the end. The chat is open, so please leave a comment so I know you're there. I can see some people commenting there already. It's really lovely. I will make some room for questions at the end after the reading. So if anybody thinks of one, try and save it for then so that I can see it. Okay, on to the thanks list. Firstly, I want to thank AsiaLink for sending me on a residency to Beijing back in 2010 with really no clear promises or ideas about what might eventuate from that. And non-conditional funding is really rare, and this book is kind of evidence of how that pays forward for artists, so thank you. To the Bookworm in Beijing for hosting me then in 2010, and for making me welcome when we moved back there in 2014. The Bookworm is sadly closed now, but it was an absolute institution, and I'm really thankful that I could be a part of it for that time. And to the Australian Embassy in China for supporting Australian writers there and inviting me to take part in events, sending me to Inner Mongolia and really great adventures. So thank you so much to the staff and the ambassador there. I wrote in the acknowledgements page for this book that the Airways possessed me on the Beijing subway, and it was really like a physical thing, feeling this story enter my body. And I couldn't begin it right away. That was partly because I was finishing Dyschronia, but also because I didn't know if I could do the story justice or if the idea was going to keep hold of me the way novels do, or really where to start. And then in 2015, I was a writer in residence at Yaddo in Saratoga Springs. And the magic of that place and the gift of space and time and brilliant company made it possible for me to begin this book. So I want to thank the Corporation of Yaddo for that incredible opportunity. I started a rough draft there on paper in the mornings in the weeks I was there. And it was a draft that was then lost with my luggage when I went back to China. And one of the many poltergeists that have haunted this book's creation. So fortunately, the draft and my bags were returned to me a few days later. And then back on Ngurri country in South Australia in 2016, I began work seriously, and I did benefit from a lot of other support. I worked out the structure of a key draft at a Bundanon residency in 2017. Many thanks to the Bundanon Trust and to the Wombats for your support. Copyright agency Create funding enabled me to return to Beijing in 2018 and to refresh the sense of atmosphere and physical detail that is so necessary to this book. So many thanks to Cal for that vital assistance. During a writer's essay regional residency in 2019, I read the book aloud to myself. I worked on the rhythm, honed the voices in it while on tour of some amazing parts of South Australia. So thanks to Jess Alice and Bronwyn Tilley and all at Writer's Essay for making that happen, and to Sarah Tooth for organising the initial funding. You're amazing. Thanks also to the public libraries at Whyalla and Port Lincoln for hosting me and making that such a special time. To Picador, Pan Macmillan, Australia, particularly Matilda Imler, Georgia Douglas, Emma Schwartz, Rebecca Lay, all of whom worked on the editing and production process. Thanks to Adolfo Aranjuez and to Jinghua Chan for being just such extraordinary beta sensitivity readers. I could not have asked for better sets of eyes on this book or better minds to meet it, so thank you both. I'm also very grateful to Julie Coe and Josephine Rowe, two of my favourite writers whose names happen to rhyme, for adding their generous words to the cover. To Tristan Main at Picador for designing the amazing cover, to Adric Kemp for the brilliant graphics that you've seen on my social media, excuse me, and to Claire Craig for stepping in and supporting the release so warmly. Big thanks also to Candice Wyman, who's doing a stellar job with publicity, despite her being in lockdown and my being stranded over here. You're all very much appreciated. Thanks to Imprints Booksellers on Hindley Street and to The Mill for helping me organise a book launch in Adelaide. I'm very sorry that it didn't happen. But Imprints has plenty of copies of the Airways, so if you're in Ghana country, please shop locally. Thanks to my parents and my family and friends for your support, especially the writers and artists among you. Hi, Mum. You all teach me how to keep doing it every day. Thanks to the literary journals that keep publishing my work, and to anyone making space in the world for formally diverse fiction in a very conservative time. Special thanks to my partner Hannah May for being on this whole adventure with me and for getting a job in China so that we could live there. She knows my process so well by now that she knows when to talk me down from a ledge and when to lift me back up there. She gets extra credit for being the only person to attend my book launch in person and for making this cute bunting behind me. If I've missed anyone, I'm really sorry. It really does take a vibrant ecosystem to make a book, and I fully appreciate every part of it. Belonging to a rich writing and reading community is the greatest pleasure of this work. So solidarity with everyone who's lost work in the pandemic. It's been a really hard time, but seeing the way that artists support each other gives me a lot of hope for the future. So thank you all. I'm going to read the opening chapter now, and then I will open some prosecco and take some questions from the comments at the end if anyone has any. Just bear with me a moment. Thanks for all your comments so far, everybody. It's nice to see the void talking back. Okay, the first chapter of this book is called The Body. I had a body once before. I didn't always love it. I knew the skin as my limit, and there were times I longed to leave it. Days I wanted to claw my way out of the earth, out of this shell, to become something else, something as yet unseen, untethered, to take flight. I knew better than to wish for this. A light went off in a house as I brushed against its fence, a light I barely registered. Jangled day thoughts burst and faded, brief as insects. The night was humid. I hunched myself smaller, eyes down. A familiar footpath scrolled beneath my feet. I knew my body in the world, the weight of it, the way it hit the uneven cement, how it felt to step across the place where the roots under the asphalt showed as blisters. We had a history together. We had a culture. I possessed myself. I was 3 blocks, then 2 from where I lived. Lived there just long enough for this walk to be a habit. The body remembered the way. I might have been stalling, walking more slowly, making sure it got late. I know I wanted to be alone, to enter the house undisturbed. Mind afloat, I counted the pools beneath streetlights. 7, 6, long shadow, short shadow, long. Pink graffiti in the white cut of tree where a branch was sawn and taken, a new wound. Warm scent of night flowers, an ache where the toe roughed against the shoe. The heat gathered at the tips of the ears, slight gut discomfort, gases in process, but nothing specific enough to call hunger. The house key cutting into one thigh through the fabric of a pocket, jeans too tight. The hum of wires and 5 pools of light. That body was always a little alert, a little vigilant. It was part of who I was then, what I carried. Memories of how others saw and described me. The fact of being watched. I had absorbed it into how I moved, let it become me. I no longer thought about it. Adam had disturbed my surfaces, but even after his transgressions, after the vigil, I thought I was safe enough. I did not feel followed or observed. If there were signals, a prickle of hair at the nape of the neck, a sharpening in the heart, a sudden chill or a trickle of sweat in the hand, then I accepted them as normal. If these alarms were sounding inside me, they were so familiar that they'd become faint and distant. My body let me down because of what it knew. 4 pools, 1 cicada trilling in the artificial light. Feet behind me at a distance. I did not look back. There was so much I felt without noticing, so much I missed, counting lights, counting my steps. I was hardly aware of myself at all. A body isn't there until something goes wrong. There was a small sound, a rip in the air at my neck. I must have smelled them then, or felt their breath. Too close to my surface, too swift to judge if I knew them. Fear shot through me. I felt it wake in every ready cell. Blood in the mouth, the wet of nostril, oxygen running under skin. 200 steps from home. Time stopped to let sensation take hold. I saw and felt the shape I had. I lived fully in the earth of it. I lifted my head, if only to feel its motion. Every detail of an exquisite, coordinated system. The mutual exchanges of bones, blood, muscle. Home. Alert to life, I felt at last what delicate machinery the body was, how complex and improbable and necessary. Its gifts of circulation, respiration, sustenance, that returned this rich awareness. The news of myself was an extravagance. A perfect form I was, if I had only known. All this in the space of a breath. And there was a soundless kick drum contact, an asphalt length against a blur too near. Falling, back of the head. Grunts and drunk scents, sweat. The eyes went for a white moment, contents tipped out, nonsense. What sharp rib this. The sense of harm arrived before pain, and gut too, or laughing, or so violence seemed continuous with being. Shit, man, running, which I knew. My face on a dark path. Are they running? Am I? I heard no sirens, felt no hands. Not breathing, clear the airways. So it went, with the body that possessed me, the nothing that was all I knew. Thanks for your time. If you have any questions for me, please leave them in the comments. I'm going to open some prosecco because if ever there was a time for mid-morning prosecco, it is now. Excuse me another moment. Hooray! Right, cheers everybody. Thanks for coming to my book launch. I really appreciate your presence here and all the comments, which I look forward to reading back over. I'll just give you a minute to see if anyone has any questions. Oh, I still haven't got final copies of the book, so this is the arcs, the proofs. So if anyone has got a copy, please take a photo and send it to me because I haven't actually seen it and I'm desperate to know how shiny it is. Okay, so I have a question here from Alice. Hello, Alice. Thanks for coming. About my process and whether the poetic language and descriptions arrive simultaneously with character and plot or separately. That's a really good question. I think the mood arrives first for me, and I work sort of from this sort of sense of images. I describe myself as a writer that thinks like a painter sometimes, and I think it's the kind of idea of the plot arrived and the characters, but the language was the challenge. So getting the voice right, knowing where to start, and I think, as most writers know, like once you have the voice, you have the book. So it was a matter of just really beginning, and then this kind of fragmented poetic voice was there very quickly. It was almost a process of listening out for it rather than thinking it up. Another question from Kate. When you said that all ghost stories are about justice, can you explain what you mean? Yeah, so I think ghost stories are generally about the restoration of order. Often there is an unresolved death, or there is a unfinished business. I think of Daphne du Maurier's book Rebecca, this kind of figure that is haunting this house and this woman because of the unjust death. And so that's just like one example. But I think that there's often this idea that the ghost needs to be put to rest, and that the resolution of the story comes from sending the ghost on its way to the next world, wherever that may be, and then everyone on Earth can have peace from the dead. And I actually was really wanting to do the opposite thing with this book, where the justice happens on Earth and the justice happens through the body. So without giving too much away, I think that I was trying to flip that kind of justice narrative a bit. Well, I think that's it for the questions. So I'm going to head off now and have a go about my day. I hope everyone's okay out there in whatever state of lockdown anxiety and stress you're in. It's nice to make contact, and even in a funny way. So thanks very much for coming, and I hope to see you soon in real life.